Alright guys, I'm going to do a quick breakdown now of my new track, The Dash, which is out now on UK British label Krafted Records, so go check it out. Alright, let's get stuck in. Let's start with the kick. So I've chosen two kicks, almost like a kind of intro leading kick, and then the main one that comes in about 16 bars in. So if we solo this, pretty basic kick sound. Yeah, there's no kind of high frequencies being cut, and then that leads straight into, after 16 bars, it goes into the main kick, which has a little bit more processing done on it. Cut the high end, and then EQ'd it a little bit. There's also just a little bit of multi-band compression, and then I'm sort of kind of giving it a little bit of a pumping effect using a transient shaper. This one I like, which is from kilohertz, is it? So you can see that I'm kind of like just reducing the attack slightly, but then boosting the sustain, and then just notching up the pump. So you can see that when that's coming through, the kind of effect that's giving it. And then switching now to the drum bus. So starting with the hats. And then a snare sound comes in. It's literally for the intro, for the first 16 bars. Just those two with the kick, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, and then the bass comes in a little bit. But really with the drum bus, most of the processing is done on the instead of the individual tracks, instrument tracks for the percussion, it'll be on the main bus. So there's a saturator here. Let's bring that over. So you got the saturator, which is currently on this preset drum loop, which I like. And then you got a little exciter here, which is doing very little, I think. Yeah. And then in addition to that, there's just a little bit of vintage verb, which is Valhalla's on the Echo Verb preset. And I've tweaked that. I always tweak these because I feel like most of them, when they open, will be on 100%, which is just too much. It floods the mix. So yeah, so that'll be the drum bus, and then that, and I'm just layering this, these percussion sounds through to, what are we on there, like bar 41. So then I'll bring in this little clap sound, which I like. That's actually using battery, so I like to use battery for more complex sounds, but occasionally I'll just go in for a single preset. I think, let's have a look. I think with this one, is literally that sound, clap. But I'll normally use that like a kind of drum programming plugin to make kind of more complex percussive, sounds. So here, yeah, what I like to do is, like, if you listen to these sounds on their own, it's like the clap. It's all right. Snare, pretty basic. Good little snappy, whippy sound, which I like to give it that kind of movement and tension. And then the hats, offbeat. Almost like a little bit of kick sound there, just to maybe emphasize the kick element a bit more. But if you put them all together, it just... So you see how it kind of opens and closes there? So with that clap sound, So it's kind of opening and closing, and I like that with my, that's how I kind of design my drum sounds and programming. So open, close, open, close. And that's literally it for 16 bars is it. And then if you go all the way through, I'll just tweak normally all 3 tracks, but in this case, it's just that clap. I might bring in more here. Oh no, I don't. Let's see if I do. No, it's just too much. So maybe fast forward to this bit. Oh, okay, yeah, so that's just slight programming on the clap. Yeah, so that again just gives it that kind of variety through the track, so it's not getting too boring and doesn't sound like a loop for 7 minutes. So kind of like the old stuck vinyl. So that's pretty much the drums. Like that for me is using 2 kicks. I normally just use 1 kick. So I've used twice the usual. With the drums, however, I'll normally have like, I don't know, 10, 15 tracks just for the percussion. And for some reason with this one, I just felt it needs to be more minimal. And have only 4 tracks, and then there's just a drum loop that I've missed, so let's have a listen to that one. And again, that's with the Valhalla Vintage on. Just in like a little almost breakdown section. Quite a lot of reverb just to give it that kind of back and forth. Echo verb, so you get a little bit of sort of delay and reverb combined. Yeah, that's drums. What I wanted for this track is I wanted the sort of key elements. I wanted the bass to be, especially in this track, this is like, it's all subs, which I never do. So this is a kind of an unusual track. There's like 4 subs. But I wanted there to be a lot of space for this sub to kind of drive through. And then the synth, look at this. This is like the lowest amount of tracks you'll ever see on one of my tracks for synths. 2 tracks and just both arps. I think one's even pitched up, so it's kind of like essentially 1. And then the piano really, or kind of almost digital piano, which is on Contacts, so Native Instruments. Oh yeah, crosstalk piano, okay. So, and this is where I found the sound, you go down rabbit holes. I like going down rabbit holes sometimes and spending way too long just to find this exact sound which can be really the signature sound for the entire track. So in this case, like it's almost in the whole track, but there's obviously just different parts to it, which you can see here, denoted by the different colors. I like to sort of, do different colors for different sections. And then and I'll always start in here. So yeah, you see, I'll kind of create the parts in here, do them different colors, try and almost jam, kind of like live mix and jam, and then drag everything here where it's actually kind of like, yeah, it's the main like the main track getting edited. So yeah, so jam first and then editing the track, and arranging, mixing and mastering obviously. So, well, mixing in this case, because mastering's kind of a separate project, if you like. Well, same project, but you know what I mean. Separate session for mastering. So let's hear the little kind of digital, almost e-piano. And then, so that's the first part. Second part. Little variation there. Next one should be, oh no, that's the same one as the first. This is the third. And then the fourth. And again, building up, little variation. It's just, you feel it kind of building here, and then it drops back down. Yeah, so there's just really, again, I wanted this to be the main focus of the track, this sound. And you can see it's not just a crossed up piano, but I'm using Ableton's stock chord plugins. So when do I use these? Oh yeah, so there's the first one. So you'll see here. Yeah, really like that sound. So really it's just tweaking with the semitones to build, yeah, it's almost like build chords. So the only thing with this one is it, and if anyone knows this, drop it in the comments, but with the chord plugin, I know there's kind of separate ones where it's almost like a preset, but you can't, there's no kind of like drop down presets within this plugin. And that would be really great. So if you're listening to Ableton, get on it. Or if I'm just being a dick and I've not located it, let me know in the comments. But yeah, so I'll do that. I'll have one chord plugin for this specific sound that I've created using the semitones and the shift dials here. And then I think if you move it up, eventually. Where is it? Why does it switch to the second one? No. Weird. Oh, there it is. So there I shut off the first one and I shut on the second one. So again, you can see like with the dials, like, 7 down, 8 down. It's like these are weird chords, I guess. To sort of give it kind of like a melancholic, sort of, a little bit sad little section before it comes back up to more of a, I don't know, I guess that was like a kind of minor diminished sort of feel, is it? Before it goes back to kind of like more major sounds. Then as I'm coming through, it's just EQing, vintage verb, tremolo. There's a little tremolator from, is that Sound Toys? Yeah, that comes in here. So I'll use this Flutter by preset, like it. Again, just to give it, so you see how I've changed it. So what I've done here is I've automated, so I've not only brought in this later on just to mix it up, but also I've used I've automated the rate. So you can see the rate here. So when the bar starts, or the section starts, see how it's there, 58, and now it's dropping. And you just automate that literally by hitting the automation thing. You can see it there, it's on, device is on. And, chord, let's go down, tremolator, tempo, there you go. So you can see how I'm automating the different sections so that that tremolo is not fixed. I don't want it to be just, one, all the way, because it's a little bit boring. So you're just trying to, little tip to, I guess, make it more human is vary the tempo and automate. I mean, some people say automate everything. Some producers, they'll say like automate every single part of this. So tremolo will be like, you got your rate, groove, depth, feel, all that you could do, but you don't have to. And that worked. That single automation was the thing that I needed to do to make the track better. So, and again, it speeds it up if it's not every single thing, and unnecessarily overcomplicating the edit, especially at 7 minutes. If you're automating a ton, you're doing that over 7 minute, over 7 minutes. So that's a lot of editing. Then after that, it was just really piano down to effects. And the main effects sound, which is my kind of like, I was gonna say analog. I always say analog gear. It's sort of more digital anyway, but there's analog components in the Micro Freak. So I've used like a preset that I've tweaked on the Micro Freak, and I've got two little sections here. Let's zoom in. So you've got, and then you got the pan and then the LFO. So again, giving that pumping sidechaining effect. Replica is the delay plugin. So classic ping pong, which I like. One of those plugins I used to use all the time, and I started using Echo Boy on every track, and then you just forget about. I forgot about Replica, and so I put that in this one because I love it. I love that plugin as well and always use it. So see how it sounds. This is the first. So this is coming in from the Micro Freak. So I'm actually probably using. Let's see. I would have used MIDI initially. So MIDI from Ableton into the Micro Freak, and then got the audio and resampled it on a separate track to then kind of bounce it as audio. So now you get the audio and you can do a lot more with that for editing purposes. So let's have a quick listen. So that's the first bit from that, and then really again, like main part for me was the piano, crosstalk piano, the sub bass, and then this Micro Freak sound throughout most of the track. And it's just those, I don't want to say like your sound or your brand or whatever. I hate saying brand, but it's like, when you're trying to do sound design and create your own sound, I think it's really important that you're using the same bits of hardware or plugins on multiple tracks, but then also you're not like killing the track with too many instruments or tracks. So again, here it's like, like love percussion. Used to play drums, love percussion, but the percussion in this is not the focus. So again, it's almost kind of like, I know you can say, well, kick's the main thing driving the track. Yeah, it is. But I wanted the subs to be, for almost like the rhythm section, like that's the thing driving it more than the kick. And then the piano, and then that Micro Freak sample, and then the arps or the synths, and arpeggiated. So I've forgotten the bass and the I'll come back to those. Quickly running through the rest of the effects, very basic. These are just samples tweaked to make them my own. That's the first one, and then I'll put the wider plugin, which is good because it gives it a kind of increased stereo image and widens the track, but also and kind of keeps the effects more on the sides rather than in the middle or in the midsection, mid frequencies. But then also it's got like what's it called? It's like not phase cancellation. It does it where it can widen the track without causing phasing issues. That's what I'm trying to say. And then just one more FX track. Which, hold on, that's weird. So that's the first one, and the second one is, oh yeah, very, very slightly different. Is that a reversed one actually? Let's see. Oh no. Okay. Yeah, they're actually very different samples but very similar sounds. So again, handpicked to give the track some ear candy. All right, bass. Whack up the bass. Let's have a listen. I'll solo the bass, the sub. EQing to Serum. Could be a preset. I do create my own, but it is in this case literally just sub coming straight through, no oscillators. It's just taken down an octave, and then there's a little. Yeah, I like to automate the drive dial with the velocity, and then there's the cutoff just a little bit. Let's see if you can hear it. Yeah, it's just slightly automated, basic throbbing or pulsing bass to kick off the track, and then it goes from that to which is very, very basic. And then that's the second part. The third part, keep taking off solo. Yeah, unbelievably basic for the first sub. The second sub is the one that kind of, I would say, really gets the track going after about just over a minute. So you're thinking in a club, like you're doing the transition, you're building it, building the track up over the first minute, and then slap in the face. First part sounds basic. Second part, sounds all right. What I did is I think they're two different samples, and I've just simply edited them and fused them together to sort of again create my own sample. Or yes, like not just out of the box, whack, cut and pasted in and saying that's me, I'm a producer and DJ. It's a bit easy, isn't it? A bit too. It's what AI's get. Basically, it's what AI is doing right now. So don't be a robot. Be more human. So here, when you put them together, this is what you get. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, that's gonna get this track really going and moving, getting people moving on a dance floor. And so again, you combine that with a kick. It's a pretty hard kick. So again, your low end sort of rhythm, let's say rhythm section here. And I've cut a lot of the high end for the kick as well, just to focus on that low end, and then bring in the drums. And it's almost quite simple, isn't it? Quite basic, but then again, you just bring the different elements, bring in the FX. That's almost like your backing track. That's like your just, backing layer, and then you bring the piano. And that's the track pretty much. I mean, as far as like tracks go, you're talking about, you've got 24 tracks, so not a ton. And really it's like three or four for each element or instrument, apart from the analog piano. And then halfway through the track-ish, 2 minutes in, I introduced the ARP. So here I'm using a Diva preset. I've probably tweaked it a little bit. Just an ARP preset. Again, I like to tweak or modulate and automate a little bit. Then I'll bring in. So then I'll do the velocity as well to like randomize that, and sort of randomizing the velocity, sort of 20%. And then I'll also bring in, LFO for, again, the side chaining feel, kind of pulsing. And then also so I'm quite liking Serum 2, but Serum 2 is just like the first one, has got Serum 2 effects. And in this, or on this track, I use Hyperdimension, but I really like this. It's not on this track, but I like the Convolve plugin, which I used to rely on Isotope's Trash 2 for that, but now I'm kind of using it on here. What is this? Door suspended processing. Okay, I don't know what that means. I'm not going to fiddle with it too much right now. I bought this, so this isn't a cracked copy, by the way. But yes, I've never seen that. Some UI features are not available whilst audio processing is disabled. Okay, I'm gonna have to look into that. If you know what that means, drop something in the comments to help me out, because I haven't seen it, but I might have to do some digging. All right, so that was that, and this is what it sounds like with some basic processing. So this section, you can see I've activated Serum 2's Hyperdimension there again, just for that little bit of variety going into the drop. And then just holding it on that note for tension, and then bringing it back, little sort of refrain, and then there's this other little bit which I think is just pitched up. Let's see. Oh, slightly different preset actually that I'm using on sound. And then put them together. Let's see, it's the first instance dancing. Yeah, so this is what I like to do with not just synths but ARPs actually, in particular. So I'll keep one pitched up, and it's kind of playing this. It's just kind of like a simple pattern, which I think is. Wait, is it this one? No, it's this one. Yeah. So there are two notes, which I think is probably an octave, G sharp and G sharp. There you go. Just literally pitched up two octaves, playing what it's like one note, literally one note. So if you play that on its own, it's going to sound crap. But if you add in the variation on the other one here, so that's got the three notes, but this little bit here where it changes, if you have that change with the, let's say, the other ARP that's not changing, it just gives it that, it makes it dramatic basically. So I like doing that with music. It sounds like this, together. It's almost like an offbeat for the other ARP. And then all together. Sounds good. And then the only other two things I missed are the two. Completely skip these two elements, making them scream out, "Look at me, look at me." So first one is the subs and just the regular bass, which is Contact. Can't remember what I used for this one. Which patch? Man, contact can take a while. Oh, low end modular. Okay, yeah, trying to get more more of an analog feel with my digital production. So the blend of the two, digital and analog worlds, if you like, or soundscapes. So that's the first one. Almost kind of like sci-fi movie, isn't it? Sci-fi suspenseful element. And then this one is this guitar rig. Amazing guitar rig. Oh no, low end again? Weird. Oh, it's just a different preset on for the bass guitar. And then what I'll do is I will use a saturator. I like the oven to cook it, burn it, sizzle it, and make it flow. As the plugin suggests. So you get in just that. I won't say slash. It's that kind of, I don't know. Justice used that a lot, didn't they? Kind of like that guitar sound in some of the stuff off Cross. This one, oh yeah, and then an amp, and then I think another amp. Let's see. Yeah, presence bass, like a couple of amps. So that was a tip. Who taught me that? I don't know. Can't remember. But they said if you're using any guitar sounds, you can even put a synth through it. But first of all, saturate it, give it some character in the track, so people, you're hearing it like, oh, that cuts through because of that saturation, makes it a little bit more raw. But then in addition to that, you've got your amplifier emulations, VSTs, like plugins. So here I'm really trying to take that sound. Let's say, someone uses Contact 7 and uses the, low end modular in this instance. But then it's like you're refining that sound and then in doing so, making it harder to copy, I guess. So again, it's like, it's your tone, it's your sound that you're sculpting and your craft that you're improving. So that gives, so there were really two parts to this. There's this part for the guitar. And then the second part is this. So I'll start it together, mixed into the track. And then I'll take it up an octave. And all I'm really doing here is, it's kind of like frequency splitting, I guess you call it. So low end, you've got obviously the kick and the bass, percussion's just above it, and then you've got your harp above that, and then the piano above that, and then you've got your FXs. I like to keep effects sort of 1K to 2K up and keep that for the high end. So everything's kind of got its own space in the track. It can all, they can all have their own space and breathe and contribute to the overall impact of the track. And then, towards the end, you get in the, let's see how it all sounds. Where's that break? I thought the break was, oh, there it is. This is the little clap break. I like that a lot. I think that works really well live. But I don't do it every bar because I want it just to, you know, I want you to kind of wait for it rather than expect it. So, you know what I mean? It's like if it's every bar, it's just like, okay, that again. But if it's every other bar, it's that little sense, you're creating that little sense of anticipation. All right, what have I missed? Done the kicks, did the percussion, bass, and everything, the arps, piano, and then the effects. And then literally it's the old, I got taught this somewhere, and it's just put everything through. So the kick and the bass through the low end, catch the peaks. That's a built-in Ableton mastering, although it's mixing, but you know what I mean, catching the peaks for the low end, and then pre-master, glue compressor, and then mix bus. This is my almost go-to on every track. So I'm just bringing up the air, the fresh air, using the fresh air plugin for like the high end, like hi-hats and effects. I like the loop trotter for a bit of saturation, a bit of glue with that, creates a bit, it's almost like gluing everything together. Expander, in case you've used the compressor earlier on yet. I don't like to use a lot of compression though, and then I put that through Ozone 12, cut the maximizer, because I'll use that on them for mastering. That's another good little tip I got taught. And then that's typically going to be peaking, even without the maximizer. And then what I'll do is I'll just cut that. I'll cut the gain down to about -12 to -14, so that when you play it, it's, well, at its peak, it's topping out at about -5 dB. Boom. -6. Normally like -6, -5. And then just giving a little bit of wiggle room for mastering, and you can kind of, you're not going into that redlining. So yeah, I hope that was helpful. If you want to support the release, it is out on Beatport, DJs, and then it's also out for streamings on streaming platforms, Apple, Spotify, and all the rest. So and it's out on Krafted Records. We will be teaming up on another release coming up, probably going to be called Psycho Tango for the second release, and there's hopefully a big surprise coming with that one, and then a bunch more releases with them. And if you're in Brighton at the Brighton Music Conference in May, I think it's May 21st, I'm going to be there with Simon Sinfield, who's one of the bosses over at Krafted. I'm going to be on the panel with them, just talking about my experience so far with them, and how I got signed, and just how I produce, and talking about the Dash and upcoming releases. So hope to see you there if you are around. And then keep your eyes on the socials as well at LUCKYKAT Music, because I will hopefully be doing some gigs in London and Europe in May and June. Fingers and toes crossed for that. So yeah, hope this was useful. Drop any questions in the comments that I didn't answer sort of in this, or address in this video. Apart from that, peace out. Have a good one. Thanks for supporting the music and the channel. Cheers. Bye.